Hello, my name is Anna, and I'm going to be giving a final presentation lecture on MMIWG2S today. This stands for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, Girls, and Two-Spirit People, an epidemic, a genocide, a movement. What is MMIWG2S? MMIWG2S is a social movement to bring recognition to the disappearance and murders of Indigenous women and girls, including Two-Spirit and trans persons. Such crimes are particularly likely in remote settings where transient workers, for example, oil workers, live in temporary housing units called man camps on and near tribal lands that fall between jurisdictions. For example, in North Dakota, during an oil boom that resulted in the arrival of thousands of workers to the area, it brought with it a surge in rates of violent crime and aggravated assault. There were at least 125 cases of missing Indigenous women during this time, although the numbers are likely much higher. Why do these crimes happen? Some of the main reasons are the long history of colonization inflicted upon Indigenous people by non-Indigenous settlers, such as slavery and forced assimilation, anti-Indigenous racism and sexism, such as harmful stereotypes that perpetuate dehumanization, queerphobia, which contributes to violence against Two-Spirit, LGBTQ+ Indigenous peoples, poor government protections and harmful policies that impact Indigenous land and communities, lack of adequate emergency services, for example, poor police response. And one website cited that police often respond to missing Indigenous women by telling the families runaways always come home and don't properly respond to the emergency. And complicated jurisdiction protocols make it hard to prosecute and investigate crimes. MMIWG2s in the United States. Some of the issues. Native women are more than twice as likely to experience violence compared to non-Native women. They face more than 10 times the national average of murder rates. Crimes against them are less likely to be reported. Much of the data on this crime is unclear due to mishandling of evidence by law enforcement who don't take these crimes seriously. And federal policies make it difficult to prosecute these crimes based on the complicated jurisdiction. So tribes have recently gained more prosecution rights for such crimes, but progress is currently stalled in the Senate. Current progress going on in the United States regarding this. Some states have begun to take steps towards passing legislation to increase awareness and build databases. There was a National Day of Awareness for MMIWG2s declared in 2018. Savannah's Act is a proposition that will increase cooperation between the different law enforcement agencies, which has been a major barrier for investigations. Will also improve tribal access to databases, and data collection and statistics will be more accurately representative. And finally, Operation Lady Justice, which is a presidential task force that was created in 2019. It will be important to see how this administration that is new for 2021 moves forward with this operation. And MMIWG2s also is a large movement in Canada to raise awareness. Some of the current and historical issues in Canada is the homicide rate was almost 6 times as high for Indigenous women compared to non-Indigenous women from 2001 to 2015. There is the notorious Highway of Tears, which is a site of the murder and disappearance of between 18 to 40 Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people, although estimates vary. The Chief Commissioner of the Official Government Inquiry in 2017 into this issue said that these violent actions are rooted in colonialism and colonial ideologies. Families felt that inquiry was flawed due to multiple reasons, such as blaming Indigenous men not based on fact, poor communication from police to families, and dehumanizing media campaigns and attention. So there was a resulting 2019 national inquiry that stated there was no reliable estimate of the numbers of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit LGBTQ people in Canada. The number of Indigenous women who are victims in homicide, increased from 9% to 24% in 2015, while rates fell for non-Indigenous women. Current progress in Canada. The National Centre for Missing Persons and Unidentified Remains was established in 2010 to respond to such investigations. And as we referred to earlier, in 2019, a 1,200-page report was released on the national inquiry into MMIWG2s that included over 230 recommendations for justice. Some of those calls for justice were to recognize Indigenous languages as official, support the increase in representation of Indigenous peoples in media, provide better financial support from the government to families with missing children or murdered Indigenous women, and more. And in 2019, Canada's Prime Minister admitted that the official report amounts to genocide in regards to MMIWG2s. Community movements and grassroots organizing, some of the most powerful methods of resistance for this issue. So communities have pulled together to create marches, community meetings, domestic violence awareness programs, media campaigns, community-run databases, protests, vigils, volunteer teams who search waterways for victims themselves, since many families feel that law enforcement does not do adequate searches, toolkits for action, self-defense classes, and Indigenous-centric hotlines. So that has really helped to move the issue forward. There has also been a great presence in activism in art in regards to MMIWG2s. Some examples are the Redress Project, which is an installation of red dresses representing missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. There's another one that is also representing those who have been lost using moccasin vamps called Walking with Our Sisters, and the Faceless Dolls Project, which is another artistic installation. There is also a well-known podcast that details an individual investigation. And Wind River is a movie that got a lot of attention for portraying a MMIWG2's investigation scenario. However, that has been criticized for non-natives playing native roles and non-native writers perpetuating the dying native media stereotype by some individuals. Very important to acknowledge. So what can you do? Some things we can do as first steps is to share posts and articles on social media, support Indigenous grassroots organizations who are currently working on this issue, vote for political leaders who take action for MMIWG2s, volunteer for community events, honor the May 5th National Day of Awareness, attend a march or protest to support Indigenous activists, and educate yourself on MMIWG2s and other Native issues. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. This is just a brief overview of a very complex and important issue. I hope that we can all continue to look into this. Thank you.